Have you ever wondered what would happen if you ate like a Buddhist monk for an entire week? What if the secret to better health, mental clarity, and inner peace isn't found in the latest diet trend, but in a way of eating that's been practiced for thousands of years? Could changing not just what you eat, but how you eat, transform your body and mind in ways you never imagined? Today, we're embarking on a fascinating journey to discover exactly that. For centuries, Buddhist monks have followed specific dietary practices that go far beyond simple nutrition. These aren't just meals, they're a form of meditation, a practice of mindfulness, and a pathway to physical and spiritual wellness. What's truly remarkable is that modern science is now confirming what these ancient practitioners have known all along. The monastic approach to eating can create profound changes in our bodies, our minds, and our overall quality of life. In this video, we're going to explore what happens when you adopt a monk's eating habits for 7 days. We'll break down the specific practices, the timing, the philosophy behind each meal, and most importantly, the surprising transformations that occur in your body during this journey. This isn't about deprivation or extreme restrictions, it's about discovering a more mindful, intentional relationship with food that can heal your body from the inside out. As we guide you through this 7-day transformation, keep an open mind. These practices have been refined over millennia, tested by countless individuals who have experienced their benefits firsthand. They offer us practical strategies to improve digestion, boost energy levels, enhance mental clarity, reduce inflammation, and cultivate a sense of peace and contentment that extends far beyond mealtimes. Each day brings new insights and tangible changes that you can feel in your own body. We're going to cover 7 key aspects of monastic eating, one for each day of this transformative week. Each element is like a piece of a larger puzzle. When you put them all together, you'll see a complete picture of how to nourish yourself in a way that honors both your physical body and your inner spirit. From the timing of meals to the practice of mindful chewing, from the types of foods monks choose to the intention they bring to every bite, each principle holds valuable wisdom for modern life. We encourage you to watch this entire video because the insights we share build upon each other, creating a comprehensive understanding of this ancient practice. The changes that happen in your body are sequential and interconnected. Missing even one piece means missing part of the remarkable transformation story. Each day we discuss reveals crucial information about how your body responds, adapts, and ultimately thrives with this approach. If you find the information we share valuable and enlightening, please show your support by clicking the like button. Subscribe to our Wisdom Diaries channel to join a growing community of individuals who are committed to living healthier, more mindful lives. By subscribing, you're not just staying updated on transformative practices like this one, you're becoming part of a movement of people who believe in the power of ancient wisdom to create real, lasting change in our modern world. Your subscription helps us continue creating content that bridges the gap between timeless teachings and practical application. Are you ready to discover what eating like a monk can do for your body? We promise you, the results will surprise you. From the physical changes you'll notice in the mirror to the mental shifts you'll experience in your daily life, this 7-day journey has the potential to change your relationship with food forever. The practices we're about to share are simple, accessible, and profoundly effective. They don't require expensive ingredients or complicated preparations, just mindfulness, intention, and a willingness to try something different. Let's begin this remarkable exploration together. Day 1 starts with a practice that sets the foundation for everything that follows, and the changes in your body begin the moment you embrace it. The rules I'll follow before we dive into the day-by-day transformation. Let's establish exactly what eating like a monk entails. Understanding these guidelines is crucial because each rule serves a specific purpose in creating the physical and mental changes we're about to explore. Buddhist monks don't follow these practices arbitrarily. Each one is rooted in centuries of observation about how food affects our bodies, minds, and overall well-being. Daily eating window: 1 meal a day before noon. The cornerstone of monastic eating is perhaps the most challenging aspect for most people. Consuming all your food in a single meal before noon. This isn't about starving yourself, it's about working with your body's natural rhythms. Monks typically eat their main meal between 7 and 11 a.m., allowing their bodies to digest food when digestive fire is strongest. This practice aligns perfectly with our circadian rhythms. Your digestive system is most efficient in the morning hours when cortisol and digestive enzymes are at their peak. By eating early, you give your body ample time to process nutrients, absorb what it needs, and then shift into repair and rejuvenation mode for the rest of the day. Think of it as front-loading your energy so your body can focus on healing rather than constantly digesting food. The fasting period that follows from noon until the next morning allows your digestive system to rest completely. This extended break triggers autophagy, a cellular cleanup process where your body breaks down and recycles damaged cells. It's like giving your internal systems a deep cleaning every single day. Food restrictions and allowances. Monastic cuisine is surprisingly diverse, but it follows clear principles. The diet is entirely plant-based, focusing on whole grains like rice, quinoa, and oats, along with legumes such as lentils, chickpeas, and beans. Fresh vegetables form the foundation of every meal: leafy greens, root vegetables, squash, and seasonal produce. Fruits are included but consumed mindfully, not in excess. Nuts and seeds provide healthy fats and protein. Simple seasonings like ginger, turmeric, garlic, and herbs enhance flavor while supporting digestion. What's notably absent: processed foods, refined sugars, artificial ingredients, alcohol, and anything that clouds mental clarity. The emphasis is on foods that are easy to digest, nutrient-dense, and grounding. Every ingredient serves a purpose, and nothing is included merely for indulgence or entertainment. This doesn't mean the food is bland or boring. When you remove the noise of processed flavors, you begin to appreciate the natural tastes and textures of whole foods in ways you never noticed before. Mindful eating practices. Here's where monastic eating truly differs from modern dining habits. It's not just what you eat, it's how you eat. Before the meal begins, there's a moment of gratitude, not necessarily a prayer, but a conscious acknowledgement of the food, the effort that brought it to your plate, and the nourishment it will provide. Every bite is taken slowly and deliberately. Monks chew each mouthful thoroughly. Some traditions suggest 30 to 50 times per bite. This isn't arbitrary. Digestion begins in the mouth, and thorough chewing breaks down food mechanically while mixing it with digestive enzymes in your saliva. The more you chew, the easier it is for your stomach and intestines to extract nutrients. During the meal, there are no distractions. No phones, no television, no reading, no conversation. The entire focus remains on the act of eating, the textures, flavors, temperature, and sensations of each bite. This complete presence transforms eating from a mindless activity into a meditation. You become acutely aware of when you're satisfied, preventing overeating. You eat until you're about 80% full, a practice called harahachibu in some traditions. This leaves room for digestion to occur comfortably and prevents the sluggish, overstuffed feeling that comes from eating to complete fullness. Subscribe if you want to learn more about these transformative practices that can change your relationship with food forever. No snacking policy. This rule is non-negotiable in monastic practice. Once the eating window closes at noon, no food passes your lips until the next morning. No snacks, no small bites, no, just a little something. This might sound extreme in our culture of constant grazing, but there's profound wisdom here. Continuous snacking keeps your digestive system in constant work mode, never allowing it to rest and repair. Your insulin levels remain elevated, your body never fully transitions into fat-burning mode, and your cells don't get the signal to initiate their natural cleaning processes. By eliminating snacking, you create clear boundaries that your body learns to work within. The first few days you'll notice hunger pangs in the afternoon and evening. These aren't signals of starvation, they're often habits and conditioned responses. Your body is remarkably adaptable. Within days, these hunger signals diminish as your system adjusts to its new rhythm. Water and tea consumption rules. While food stops at noon, hydration continues throughout the day. Water is consumed freely but mindfully. Monks don't chug water mindlessly, they drink when genuinely thirsty, sipping slowly and with awareness. Herbal teas are permitted and even encouraged after the eating window closes. Ginger tea aids digestion, chamomile promotes calmness, peppermint soothes the stomach. These aren't considered breaking the fast because they contain no calories and support the body's natural processes. However, they're consumed plain: no honey, no sugar, no milk. The purity is intentional. Room temperature or warm beverages are preferred over ice-cold drinks, which can shock the digestive system and require extra energy to process. Everything in monastic practice considers the body's energetic needs. Setting up my kitchen and prep work. Success with this approach requires preparation. Before starting this 7-day journey, I cleared my kitchen of temptations: processed snacks, sugary foods, anything that might derail my commitment. I stocked up on whole grains, dried legumes, fresh vegetables, fruits, nuts, and healing spices. Meal planning became essential. Since I'd be eating only once daily, that meal needed to be substantial and nutritionally complete. I prepared a shopping list that included variety of different colored vegetables, various protein sources from legumes, and diverse grains to ensure I'd get a full spectrum of nutrients. I also set up my eating space intentionally, a clean, uncluttered area where I could eat without distractions, no phone nearby, no television in view, just a peaceful spot where I could focus entirely on my meal. This environmental preparation proved just as important as the food itself. Understanding these rules gives you the complete framework. Now, let's see what actually happens when theory meets reality. Day 1 was about to teach me lessons I never expected. Day 1, the difficult beginning morning routine and first meal preparation. Day 1 began with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. I woke up at 6 a.m., earlier than usual, knowing that my eating window would close at noon and I needed to make this meal count. The morning air felt different, somehow crisper, more alive. Or perhaps it was just my heightened awareness knowing that today marked the beginning of a significant change. I started with a simple meditation, sitting quietly for 10 minutes to center myself and set my intention for the day. This wasn't about willpower or forcing myself through deprivation. It was about approaching this experience with curiosity and openness. After meditation, I drank a full glass of room temperature water with a squeeze of lemon to gently wake up my digestive system. At 7:30 a.m., I began preparing my one meal of the day. I had planned it carefully the night before. Brown rice cooked with turmeric and a pinch of sea salt, a generous serving of steamed vegetables including broccoli, carrots and bok choy, a hearty lentil curry with tomatoes, onions, ginger and warming spices, and a small side of fresh avocado for healthy fats. I also included some raw almonds and a serving of fresh fruit-sliced mango and papaya. The preparation itself became a meditation, chopping vegetables slowly and deliberately, watching the steam rise from the cooking pot, stirring the curry with full attention. There was no rushing, no multitasking, no checking my phone between steps, just me, the ingredients, and the process of creating nourishment. The kitchen filled with aromatic spices, and I found myself genuinely looking forward to this meal in a way I rarely experienced during my usual rushed breakfasts. The mindful eating experience. At 8:15 a.m. I sat down to eat. The plate before me was colorful, abundant, and honestly, slightly intimidating. Could I really eat all of this in one sitting, knowing it had to sustain me until tomorrow morning? I took a deep breath and began with a moment of gratitude, acknowledging the earth that grew this food, the people involved in bringing it to my table, and my body that would transform it into energy and vitality. The first bite was revelatory. Without any distractions, I tasted my food in a completely new way. The earthiness of the lentils, the slight bitterness of the bok choy, the creamy richness of the avocado-rich flavor stood out distinctly. I chewed slowly, counting at least 30 times per bite, which felt strange at first. I'm accustomed to eating quickly, often finishing meals in 10 minutes or less. This meal took 45 minutes. 45 minutes of complete presence with my food. About halfway through, something unexpected happened. I became genuinely satisfied. Not stuffed, not uncomfortable, but contentedly full. My usual pattern would be to finish everything on my plate regardless of my body's signals, but today I practiced listening. I ate until I felt about 80% full, leaving a small portion remaining. The experience was profound. I realized how rarely I actually taste my food, how seldom I'm truly present during meals. Most of my eating happens on autopilot, my mind occupied with screens, conversations, or planning what comes next. This singular focus revealed eating as an intimate act of self-care, rather than a mundane necessity. Afternoon hunger struggles. The real challenge began around 2 p.m. My body, accustomed to lunch at noon, sent clear signals, time to eat. My stomach growled audibly. I felt a distinct emptiness, a pulling sensation that said, "Feed me." But this wasn't true physical hunger. I'd eaten a substantial meal just 6 hours earlier. This was habit, routine, conditioned expectation. I drank water, sipped on warm ginger tea, and tried to observe the sensations without judgment. The hunger came in waves, peaking for a few minutes, then subsiding. Between 2 and 4 p.m. I experienced 3 or 4 distinct waves of what felt like intense hunger. Each time, I reminded myself that my body had plenty of fuel from the morning meal. This discomfort was psychological adaptation, not physical need. What surprised me most was how much of my afternoon routine revolved around food. My usual 3 p.m. coffee break with a snack was such an ingrained habit that I found myself walking toward the kitchen multiple times without conscious thought. The ritual of taking a break meant food, socializing meant food, boredom meant food. Removing food from these contexts exposed just how much I used eating as a distraction or comfort rather than genuine nourishment. Energy levels and mood. Contrary to my expectations, my energy didn't crash in the afternoon. Around 3 p.m., I felt a deeper kind of sleepy, low-energy period, but it passed within 30 minutes. After that, something interesting happened. My energy stabilized at a steady, even level. There were no dramatic spikes and crashes like I usually experienced after lunch and afternoon snacks. My mental clarity was surprisingly sharp. Without the digestive burden of processing lunch, my mind felt clear and focused. I worked on several projects and found myself more productive than usual, able to concentrate for longer stretches without feeling foggy or distracted. There's something liberating about knowing you don't have to think about food for the rest of the day. All food decisions are already made. However, my mood was more complicated. I felt periods of irritability, especially during those hunger waves. Small annoyances seemed magnified. I also noticed an emotional component to not eating, a kind of restlessness, as if a familiar comfort had been removed. Food, I realized, had been serving as an emotional regulator for me. Happy, celebrate with food. Stressed, comfort with food. Bored, entertain with food. Without that outlet, I had to sit with my emotions more directly. Evening reflections and challenges. By 6 p.m. dinner time in my old life, another significant hunger wave hit. This one felt more challenging because it coincided with my strongest eating habit. Evenings meant sitting down to a satisfying dinner, unwinding from the day with a meal. The absence felt like something was missing from my routine, like skipping a step in a familiar dance. I prepared a cup of chamomile tea and sat with my journal, reflecting on the day. What I wrote surprised me. Despite the discomfort, despite the hunger pangs and the irritability, there was an underlying sense of accomplishment. I'd done something difficult. I'd sat with discomfort without immediately reaching for relief. That felt significant. Comment below and let us know where you're watching this from and whether you've ever tried any form of mindful eating practice. The evening hours moved slowly. Usually my evening routine includes preparing dinner, eating, and then often snacking while watching something or reading. Without food, I had significantly more time. What do you do with all those extra hours? I found myself taking a long walk, something I rarely make time for. I called a friend I'd been meaning to catch up with. I organized a cluttered drawer. The space that food had occupied in my life became visible through its absence. Physical measurements and observations. Before starting this journey, I'd taken baseline measurements, weight, body measurements, photos and notes about how I felt physically. At the end of day one, I checked in with my body. Though I didn't measure or weigh myself, it was too soon for significant physical changes. What I noticed, my abdomen felt flatter, less bloated. There was no uncomfortable fullness, no digestive distress. My sleep that first night was deep and uninterrupted. No midnight bathroom trips, no restless tossing from indigestion. I fell asleep quickly, my body seemingly grateful for the rest from constant digestion. I also noticed my senses seemed sharper. Smells were more pronounced. I could detect the scent of flowers I walked past, the earthiness after a brief rain shower. This heightened sensory awareness felt like a fog lifting, though I couldn't be certain if this was physiological or simply increased mindfulness. The most surprising observation? Despite eating only once, I didn't feel deprived. The meal had been abundant, nutritious, and satisfying. Yes, I felt hunger later, but there's a difference between hunger and deprivation. Hunger is a physical signal that comes and goes. Deprivation is a mental state of feeling restricted or punished. I felt hungry at times, but not deprived. That distinction mattered more than I'd anticipated. As I prepared for sleep, I reflected that day one was exactly what beginnings are supposed to be: challenging, uncomfortable, eye-opening, and ultimately survivable. The difficult part was over, or so I thought. The real surprises were still to come. Day 2-3. The adjustment phase, waking up and mental clarity changes. Day 2 began differently than day 1. I woke up naturally at 5:45 a.m., 15 minutes before my alarm, something that rarely happens. My eyes opened with an alertness that felt unusual. Typically, my mornings involve grogginess, multiple snooze button hits, and a slow transition into wakefulness. But this morning, My mind felt sharp immediately, as if someone had turned up the brightness and contrast on my consciousness. The mental clarity was the first significant change I noticed during this adjustment phase. By day 3, this clarity had intensified further. Thoughts came faster and more organized. Decision-making felt easier. That afternoon brain fog I'd considered normal for years, completely absent. It was as if my cognitive function had been operating at 70% capacity, and suddenly I'd unlocked the full 100%. Scientists call this mental acuity enhancement, and it's directly related to ketone production. When your body isn't constantly digesting food, it begins producing ketones molecules that your brain actually prefers as fuel over glucose. These ketones provide steady, clean-burning energy without the spikes and crashes that come from regular carbohydrate metabolism. By day 3, my body had shifted into this state, and the mental benefits were undeniable. I also noticed my morning meditation practice deepened significantly. Normally, my mind wanders constantly during meditation, jumping from thought to thought like a hyperactive monkey, but during days 2 and 3, I experienced longer stretches of genuine stillness. My concentration improved, and I could observe my thoughts without getting caught up in them. The monks were onto something. Fasting and mental clarity are intimately connected. Dealing with social situations, day 2 brought an unexpected challenge, a friend's lunch invitation. This was my first real test of commitment in a social context. How do you explain to someone that you're eating like a monk without sounding preachy or extreme? I decided on honesty without over-explanation. I'm doing a week-long experiment with mindful eating. I eat one meal in the morning and then fast until the next day, but I'd love to meet for tea instead. To my surprise, my friend was genuinely curious rather than judgmental. We met at a cafe at 2 p.m., and while she ate a sandwich, I sipped herbal tea. The conversation flowed naturally, and I realized something profound. The food wasn't the point of our meeting. The connection was. I'd been using meals as a default social activity for so long that I'd forgotten you could simply enjoy someone's company without food as the centerpiece. Day 3 presented another social situation, a family dinner. This was trickier because it involved people who cared about me and might worry. I explained my experiment beforehand, emphasizing that I'd eaten a substantial meal that morning and felt great. I sat with them during dinner, drank tea, and participated fully in the conversation. My mother worried I was starving myself, but when I explained the traditional practice and the health benefits I was experiencing, she became interested rather than concerned. These social situations taught me something valuable. We attach so much meaning to shared meals that we forget the actual purpose connection. The food is just a vehicle. Once I separated the two, social interactions actually felt more genuine because they weren't centered around consumption, cravings, and how I handled them. Days 2 and 3 brought intense cravings, but not the kind I expected. I didn't crave hunger satisfaction. My morning meals were substantial enough. Instead, I craved specific tastes and textures. On day 2, around 4 p.m., I desperately wanted something crunchy and salty. Day 3 brought an intense chocolate craving in the evening. These cravings revealed something important. They weren't about nutrition or energy. My body had plenty of both. These were emotional cravings, habit cravings, sensory cravings. I wanted the experience of eating, the oral stimulation, the dopamine hit that comes from intensely flavored foods. I developed a simple strategy. When cravings hit, I'd drink water first, then ask myself what I actually needed. Was I bored, stressed, tired? Usually, the craving masked a different need entirely. The salt craving on day 2 coincided with work stress. I wanted the comfort of crunchy, salty snacks. Instead, I took a 10-minute walk outside. The chocolate craving on day 3 came during an evening of Netflix watching, pure habit association. I switched to reading instead, breaking the pattern. What fascinated me was how quickly cravings passed when I didn't feed them. Each one felt overwhelming for about 5 to 10 minutes, then faded completely. It was like watching a storm roll through, intense while present, but temporary. By not indulging every craving, I was retraining my brain's reward circuits, weakening the neural pathways that associated specific situations with specific foods. Surprising energy shift. The energy changes during days 2 and 3 were remarkable and counterintuitive. On day 2 morning, I experienced what felt like a slight keto flu, a mild headache, slight fatigue, some muscle weakness. This is common when your body transitions from burning glucose to burning fat for fuel. I increased my water intake, and added a pinch of sea salt to my morning meal for electrolytes, and by afternoon the symptoms had passed. Then something unexpected happened. My energy became incredibly stable. Imagine a graph of typical daily energy. It has peaks after meals and valleys between them, spikes from caffeine and sugar, crashes in the afternoon. My new energy graph looked completely different, a gentle, sustained plateau throughout the day. No dramatic highs, but crucially, no debilitating lows. By day 3, I experienced what I can only describe as sustained vitality. I woke up energized, maintained that energy through the afternoon without any dips, and still felt capable and alert in the evening. My usual 3 p.m. slump, that period where productivity dies and I need caffeine to survive, simply didn't occur. I worked efficiently through what used to be my lowest energy hours. Physical energy also increased. On day 3, I spontaneously decided to go for a run, something I'd been too tired to do for weeks. I expected to feel weak or depleted, but instead I completed 5 kilometers more easily than usual. My body had learned to access stored fat for fuel, providing a massive energy reservoir I'd never properly tapped into before. Sleep quality observations. Sleep transformed dramatically during this adjustment phase. Day 1 sleep had been good, but days 2 and 3 brought sleep quality I hadn't experienced in years. I fell asleep within minutes of lying down, no tossing, no mind racing, no midnight wakefulness. I slept deeply and continuously for 7 to 8 hours, waking naturally without an alarm, feeling genuinely refreshed. The difference was palpable. Usually I'd wake up multiple times during the night, often needing to use the bathroom or feeling restless. My sleep tracker confirmed what I felt. My deep sleep stages increased by nearly 40%, and my REM sleep, crucial for mental restoration and memory consolidation, improved significantly. This makes physiological sense. When you eat late in the day, your body continues digesting food while you sleep, diverting energy and resources away from cellular repair and restoration. Your body temperature stays elevated, your digestive system stays active, and your sleep quality suffers even if you're not consciously aware of it. By giving my digestive system complete rest during sleep hours, my body could focus entirely on healing, repairing, and consolidating memories. I also noticed my dreams became more vivid and memorable. I'd wake up with clear recollections of detailed, narrative dreams, something that rarely happened before. This is likely related to enhanced REM sleep and the mental clarity from ketone production. Digestive system changes. The changes in my digestive system were among the most noticeable and welcome developments. By day 2, the constant bloating I'd accepted as normal had completely disappeared. My abdomen felt flat, comfortable, unremarkable, which was remarkable because it had been my source of regular discomfort for years. I experienced what monks call digestive rest. Without constant food intake, my intestines had time to complete their work, heal any inflammation, and reset. The gurgling, gas, and unpredictable digestive responses I'd normalized, gone. My one morning meal digested efficiently and completely, and then my system rested. Day 3 brought another surprise. My morning bathroom routine became incredibly regular and efficient. Too much information, perhaps, but it's significant. When you eat at consistent times and give your body adequate rest, your elimination becomes predictable and healthy. This is a sign of optimal digestive function. I also noticed I needed less food to feel satisfied. My morning meal on day 3 was slightly smaller than day 1, yet I felt equally satiated. My stomach seemed to be shrinking back to a normal size, no longer stretched from constant eating. The monks understand that satiation isn't about volume, it's about nutrient density and allowing your body time to register what you've consumed. Emotional and mental state updates. The emotional landscape of days 2 and 3 was complex and enlightening. Day 2 brought waves of irritability that I hadn't experienced on day 1. Small frustrations felt magnified. I snapped at a minor inconvenience and felt disproportionately annoyed by things that usually wouldn't bother me. This was my body and mind adjusting, protesting the removal of my emotional crutch food. But day 3 brought an emotional breakthrough. A sense of calm settled over me that felt almost foreign. That constant low-level anxiety I'd carried, the background hum of stress I'd accepted as normal modern life, had diminished significantly. I felt more patient, more present, less reactive. When challenges arose, I could observe them with clarity rather than immediately reacting emotionally. This emotional stability wasn't numbness or detachment. If anything, I felt emotions more clearly, but I wasn't overwhelmed by them. there was space between the emotion and my response to it. Psychologists call this emotional regulation, and apparently fasting enhances it by stabilizing blood sugar, reducing inflammation that affects mood, and increasing production of BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which supports mental health. I also experienced unexpected moments of gratitude and contentment. Simple things brought more joy: a beautiful sunset, a good conversation, the feeling of accomplishment after completing work. Without food providing constant dopamine hits, my brain became more sensitive to other sources of pleasure and meaning. Life felt richer despite having less, which is perhaps the most paradoxical and valuable lesson of monastic practice. Share this video with anyone who needs to hear about these transformative benefits. The adjustment phase was challenging, but revealed that our bodies are capable of remarkable adaptation, and the best was yet to come. Day 4-5, the breakthrough turning point in the journey. Day 4 marked a dramatic shift that I can only describe as crossing a threshold. I woke up feeling fundamentally different, not just physically, but in a way that's harder to articulate. It was as if my body had finally stopped resisting and started embracing this new rhythm. The struggle of days 1 through 3 had been my system fighting against change, clinging to old patterns, but on day 4, something clicked into place. The constant mental negotiation: should I eat? Can I eat? How long until I can eat? Simply stopped. Food ceased being the organizing principle of my day. Instead of my schedule revolving around meals and snacks, time opened up in unexpected ways. I had hours I didn't know existed, mental space I hadn't realized was occupied. This wasn't willpower or discipline anymore. It had become natural, almost effortless. By day 5, I caught myself actually forgetting about food for stretches of time. Me, someone who used to check the clock every hour calculating when I could eat next, would suddenly realize it was 4 p.m. and I hadn't thought about food since my morning meal. This mental freedom felt like putting down a heavy backpack I'd been carrying for years without realizing its weight. The breakthrough wasn't just about adapting to eating once daily. It was about discovering that so much of what I'd believed about my body's needs was actually conditioned habit, rather than genuine physiological necessity. My body didn't need constant feeding. It needed proper nourishment followed by adequate rest. This realization fundamentally changed my relationship with hunger, with food, with my own physical existence. Unexpected physical changes. The physical transformations during days 4 and 5 were dramatic and visible. My face looked different in the mirror, sharper, more defined. The slight puffiness I'd carried around my eyes and jawline had disappeared, revealing bone structure I'd forgotten I had. This wasn't dramatic weight loss. It was the reduction of inflammation and water retention that constant eating maintains. My skin developed a clarity and glow that surprised me. Those small blemishes and uneven texture that had been persistent, clearing up. My complexion looked healthier, more vibrant. This makes sense from a biological perspective. When your body isn't constantly processing food, it can allocate resources to repair and regeneration, including skin cell turnover. Energy levels reached what felt like a new baseline entirely. Remember that sustained energy I mentioned on day 3? By day 5, it had intensified. I bounded out of bed in the morning without an alarm. I moved through my day with a vitality that felt almost youthful. Physical tasks that usually tired me, carrying groceries, climbing stairs, extended walks, felt easier, lighter, as if I were carrying less weight, even though the scale hadn't changed dramatically. Most surprisingly, my body composition was shifting. My clothes fit differently, particularly around my waist. That stubborn belly fat that resists typical dieting was noticeably reduced. This is the power of extended fasting periods. When you're not eating for 18-20 hours daily, your body enters deep fat-burning mode, accessing stored energy in ways it never does when constantly fed. I also noticed my sense of taste had transformed. During my morning meal on day 5, foods tasted incredibly intense and complex. The natural sweetness of carrots, the earthiness of lentils, the subtle bitterness of green savory flavor was amplified. It was as if I'd been eating with dulled senses my entire life, and someone had suddenly turned up the sensitivity. This heightened taste perception is a documented effect of fasting. Your palate resets, becoming more sensitive to natural flavors rather than needing intense seasonings or processed tastes to register satisfaction. Mental clarity and focus improvements. The mental clarity that began on day 2 reached extraordinary levels by days 4 and 5. My thinking felt laser-focused, sharp, almost effortless. Complex problems that would typically require significant mental effort to solve seemed to unravel naturally. I could hold multiple variables in my mind simultaneously, see connections and patterns that would normally escape me. My concentration span extended dramatically. I worked on a challenging project for 3 uninterrupted hours on day 4, something I would previously have considered impossible without multiple breaks, snacks, and distractions. The work flowed in a state that psychologists call deep work or flow state, where you're completely immersed and time seems to disappear. I'd read about this state but rarely experienced it. Now it felt accessible, almost easy to enter. Memory recall improved noticeably. I remembered details from conversations, could recall names and facts that would typically slip away, and found myself making connections between ideas from different contexts. This cognitive enhancement isn't imagination. Search shows that fasting increases production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, by up to 400%, which promotes neuron growth and protects existing brain cells. Day 5 brought what I can only describe as mental spaciousness. Usually my mind feels crowded, a constant stream of thoughts, worries, plans, and mental chatter competing for attention. But during these breakthrough days, my mind felt clear, quiet, organized. Thoughts arose when needed and departed when finished, rather than lingering and multiplying. This mental peace wasn't something I was trying to achieve through meditation or effort. It emerged naturally as a result of my body's physiological state. Relationship with food transformation. Perhaps the most profound change during days 4 and 5 was my completely transformed relationship with food. Before this experiment, food occupied an enormous amount of mental and emotional space in my life. I thought about what I'd eat, when I'd eat, whether I should eat, what I wanted to eat constantly. Food was entertainment, comfort, reward, distraction, and social glue all rolled into one. By day 4, food had become simply nourishment, not in a restrictive or negative way, but in a clarifying, liberating way. During my morning meal, I felt genuine gratitude for the food. I appreciated its ability to sustain me, to provide energy and nutrients, to keep me alive and functioning. But I no longer needed food to provide emotional regulation, entertainment, or meaning. This shift was subtle but seismic. I realized how much I'd been using food to avoid feelings, fill boredom, celebrate achievements, soothe disappointments, and connect with others. Food had become a solution to every emotional state. Removing that crutch forced me to develop other strategies and revealed that I actually had the internal resources to manage emotions, boredom, and stress without eating. On day 5, I experienced something remarkable during my morning meal. About halfway through eating, I felt completely satisfied and naturally stopped, not because I was forcing myself to eat less, but because my body had genuinely received what it needed. Previously, I would have finished everything on my plate regardless of satisfaction, often eating past fullness. Now, my body's natural satiation signals were clear and unmistakable, and I could actually hear them. I also noticed I was craving simpler foods. The complex, heavily seasoned dishes I'd been preparing gave way to a desire for plainer preparations. Steamed vegetables with just a touch of salt tasted perfect. Plain rice felt satisfying. This wasn't deprivation, it was refinement. My palate had recalibrated to appreciate subtle, natural flavors rather than requiring intense stimulation. Spiritual and meditative experiences. While this experiment wasn't religious for me, days 4 and 5 brought experiences I can only describe as spiritual. During meditation on day 4, I experienced a depth of stillness I'd never encountered. My usual meditation involves constant mental chatter that I gently redirect back to my breath dozens of times. But this time, genuine quiet emerged. Not the absence of thought, but a spacious awareness that could hold thoughts without being consumed by them. I felt a profound sense of connection to my body, to the present moment, to something larger than myself. It wasn't mystical or supernatural. It was an acute awareness of being alive, of participating in existence. The monks describe this as removing the veils between you and reality, and while that sounded abstract before, I understood it experientially now. When you're not constantly seeking the next meal, the next stimulation, the next distraction, you can actually be present with what is. Day 5 brought moments of unexpected joy that arose without external cause. I'd be walking outside and suddenly feel overcome with contentment, gratitude, a sense that everything was exactly as it should be. These weren't mood swings or emotional instability. They were moments of clarity where the usual anxious chatter quieted enough for deeper feelings to surface. I also experienced enhanced intuition. Decisions that would typically require extensive analysis and deliberation felt obvious. I knew what I needed to do, what was right for me, with a certainty that came from a deeper place than rational thought. This wasn't recklessness, it was accessing a type of wisdom that operates below conscious reasoning. Productivity and daily routine impact. My productivity during days 4 and 5 skyrocketed in ways I hadn't anticipated. With stable energy throughout the day, mental clarity, and significantly more time, I accomplished more in these 2 days than I typically would in a full week. Tasks that I'd been procrastinating on for months suddenly got completed because I had the focus and energy to tackle them. My morning routine became incredibly efficient. Without breakfast to prepare and consume, I had an extra hour each day. I used this time for deeper meditation, journaling, and planning my day with intention. Starting each morning with this grounded, purposeful energy set the tone for everything that followed. Afternoons previously, my least productive time became my most focused work hours. That 2-4 p.m. period when I'd usually need coffee and snacks to stay functional, now it was when I produced my best work. The mental fog that had characterized my afternoons for years was completely gone, replaced with sustained concentration and creative flow. Evenings transformed from mindless eating and screen time into productive, meaningful activities. I read more in these 2 evenings than I had in the previous month. I completed projects, had deep conversations, took long walks, and engaged with life rather than passively consuming it. The time and mental energy that food preparation, eating, and digestive recovery had consumed became available for actually living. Comment below and tell us if you've experienced similar breakthroughs when changing your eating habits and what surprised you most about the journey. Days 4 and 5 revealed that the monastic approach to eating isn't about deprivation, it's about liberation. Liberation from constant hunger, from food obsession, from the tyranny of appetite, and the physical and mental benefits were just beginning to fully emerge. Day 6-7, the final stretch consolidated benefits and challenges. As I entered the final stretch of this 7-day journey, I found myself taking inventory of everything that had changed. Days 6 and 7 weren't about new discoveries, they were about consolidation, about recognizing patterns, and understanding which changes were temporary adaptations versus lasting transformations. The benefits had stacked and compounded in ways I hadn't expected. The mental clarity from day 4 hadn't faded. It had become my new normal. The stable energy, the improved sleep, the reduced inflammation, all of these continued and in some cases intensified. My body had fully adapted to this rhythm, and the struggles of early days felt like distant memories. However, day 6 brought an unexpected challenge. A subtle loneliness around food, not hunger that had genuinely subsided, but a social and emotional loneliness. I missed the ritual of shared meals, the comfort of evening dinners, the social connectivity that food provides. This wasn't about needing food, it was about recognizing how deeply food is woven into the fabric of human connection and culture. The monks live in communities where everyone follows the same practice, but doing this alone in a food-centric culture highlighted just how isolated this approach can feel. Day 7 brought another challenge, the awareness that this experiment would end tomorrow. Part of me felt relief I could return to more flexibility, to social meals, to the convenience of eating when situations called for it, but another part felt reluctant to abandon what I'd gained. The freedom, the clarity, the vitality, could I maintain these without maintaining the full practice? This tension between the benefits of the practice and the reality of modern life became the central question of these final days. What became easier versus harder? By day 6, several aspects that seemed impossible on day 1 had become remarkably easy. The morning meal preparation, which initially felt pressured and stressful, had become a meditative practice I genuinely enjoyed. I developed a rhythm, knowing exactly what my body needed, how to prepare it efficiently, and how to eat it mindfully. The meal itself became simpler and more satisfying as my palate adjusted. The afternoon and evening hours without food, which brought intense cravings in early days, now felt completely manageable. I no longer watched the clock or counted hours until I could eat again. My mind had genuinely released its grip on constant food thoughts. This mental freedom was perhaps the easiest and most welcome development. Physical sensations of hunger had transformed entirely. What started as sharp, demanding pangs had become gentle, almost pleasant sensations that came and went without urgency. I'd learned to distinguish between genuine physical hunger and psychological cravings, and by days 6 and 7, most of what I experienced was the latter easily managed through awareness and redirection. However, some aspects became harder rather than easier. The social dimension grew more challenging as the week progressed. On day 7, I attended a family gathering where everyone ate together, and sitting with tea while others enjoyed a meal felt more isolating than it had earlier in the week. Perhaps this was because the novelty had worn off, or because I'd had time to fully feel what I was missing, not the food itself, but the shared experience. Energy management also became more nuanced. While my baseline energy remained high, I noticed I needed to be more intentional about balancing activity with rest. On day 6, I pushed myself through an intense workout and felt depleted afterward in a way I hadn't earlier in the week. My body was running efficiently on stored resources, but those resources weren't infinite. I learned that this way of eating requires listening carefully to your body's signals and respecting its limits. Final physical measurements. On the morning of day 7, I took my final measurements and compared them to my baseline from day 1. The results were more significant than I'd anticipated. I'd lost 6 pounds over the 7 days, not dramatic, but noticeable. More importantly, my body composition had shifted visibly. My waist measurement decreased by 2 inches, and the definition in my face, neck and torso was markedly improved. The scale and tape measure told only part of the story. Looking in the mirror, I saw someone who looked healthier, more vibrant, younger even. The puffiness and inflammation that I'd carried for so long had melted away. My skin had a glow and clarity that no skincare product had ever achieved. My eyes looked brighter, more alert. My resting heart rate had dropped by 5 beats per minute, a significant indicator of improved cardiovascular health. My blood pressure, which had been borderline high, had normalized to healthy ranges. These weren't subjective feelings. They were measurable physiological improvements in just 7 days. I also tracked my sleep throughout the week, and the data was remarkable. My average deep sleep increased by 38%, and my sleep efficiency percentage of time in bed actually spent sleeping improved from 79% to 94%. I was getting more restorative rest in fewer hours, waking naturally without an alarm, and feeling genuinely refreshed each morning. Perhaps most surprisingly, my digestive health had transformed completely. The bloating, gas, and irregular bathroom habits that I'd accepted as normal had resolved entirely. My elimination was predictable, efficient, and comfortable, a sign that my digestive system had healed and reset during this week of reduced stress and extended rest. Mental and emotional state assessment. Evaluating my mental and emotional state on days 6 and 7 revealed profound shifts that went beyond the physical changes. My baseline mood had elevated significantly. That low-level anxiety and stress I'd carried constantly had diminished to occasional, manageable moments rather than a constant state. I felt more emotionally stable, less reactive, more capable of handling challenges with equanimity. My relationship with discomfort had fundamentally changed. Before this experiment, I would immediately reach for something: food, my phone, entertainment whenever I felt uncomfortable, bored, or restless. 7 days of sitting with hunger, with cravings, with the absence of my usual coping mechanisms taught me that discomfort is temporary and manageable. I didn't need to immediately fix or escape every uncomfortable feeling. This lesson extended far beyond food into all areas of life. My self-confidence had grown in unexpected ways. I'd done something difficult, something that required discipline and commitment, and I'd succeeded. This accomplishment rippled outward, making me feel more capable in other areas. If I could do this, what else was I capable of? The monks understand that physical practices build mental and spiritual strength. They're not separate domains, but interconnected aspects of one being. Day 7 brought a clarity about my values and priorities that felt revelatory. Without the constant distraction of food, eating, and planning meals, I'd been forced to confront how I actually wanted to spend my time and energy. I'd filled the space with activities that genuinely mattered: creative projects, meaningful conversations, physical movement, learning. This wasn't something I'd planned. It emerged naturally when the noise of constant eating quieted. However, I also recognized some emotional challenges. There were moments of feeling disconnected from normal life, from social rhythms, from the shared experiences that food provides. On day 6, watching a cooking show, something I'd always enjoyed, made me feel oddly isolated, aware that I was observing rather than participating in food culture. This highlighted an important truth. Monastic practices evolved in monastic communities, where everyone shares the same rhythms and values. Adopting these practices in mainstream culture requires navigating the gap between your choices and the world around you. Key lessons learned. These 7 days taught me lessons that extended far beyond eating patterns. The most significant lesson: so much of what I believed about my body's needs was conditioned habit rather than physiological necessity. I didn't need to eat constantly to maintain energy, health, or happiness. My body was capable of incredible adaptation and efficiency when given the right conditions. I learned that hunger is a signal, not an emergency. Those hunger pangs that felt so urgent and demanding, they passed within minutes if I simply observed them without reacting. My body wasn't starving, it was adjusting. This distinction between genuine need and conditioned response applies to so many areas beyond food. Discomfort doesn't always require immediate action. The quality of food matters more than quantity or frequency. My single daily meal, when composed of whole, nutrient-dense foods and eaten mindfully, provided everything my body needed. This contradicted the constant snacking, multiple meals, and processed foods I'd relied on before. More isn't better. Better is better. I learned that mental clarity and physical vitality don't come from adding more food, more supplements, more interventions, but often from strategic subtraction. Giving my body extended rest from digestion unlocked resources for healing, repair, and optimal function. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do for our health is to get out of our body's way and let it work. Perhaps most importantly, I learned that discipline creates freedom rather than restricting it. Following a clear structure on meal before noon, no snacking eliminated the constant decision fatigue around food. I didn't spend mental energy negotiating with myself about what, when, or whether to eat. The rules created boundaries that paradoxically expanded my freedom and mental space. Would I continue this practice? As day 7 drew to a close, I faced the question that had been building throughout the week. Would I continue eating like a monk? The honest answer is nuanced. Would I maintain the exact practice indefinitely? Probably not. The social limitations, the challenge of navigating a food-centric culture, and the occasional impracticality of eating only before noon make the full practice difficult to sustain long-term in modern life. However, would I integrate the principles and return to this practice periodically? Absolutely. The benefits were too significant to ignore. The mental clarity, physical vitality, improved sleep, reduced inflammation, and emotional stability transformed my quality of life in just 7 days. These aren't benefits I want to abandon. My plan moving forward is to adopt a modified approach, maintaining 1 or 2 days per week of the full monastic eating pattern, extending my daily eating window slightly to allow for an early dinner on most days, and carrying forward the mindful eating practices regardless of when I eat. The lesson isn't that everyone must eat exactly like a monk, but that these ancient practices contain wisdom about human physiology and psychology that remains profoundly relevant. I'll also continue the practice of eating my largest, most substantial meal earlier in the day when digestion is strongest, avoiding late-night eating that disrupts sleep and recovery, and maintaining extended fasting periods to give my body adequate rest. These principles can be adapted to various lifestyles while still honoring the core wisdom. The 7-day experiment revealed that monastic eating isn't about religious devotion or extreme asceticism. It's about understanding how our bodies function optimally and having the courage to align our habits with that understanding, even when it contradicts cultural norms. Share this video with anyone who needs to hear that profound health changes are possible without expensive interventions, just by working with your body's natural rhythms rather than against them. As I prepared my final evening tea on day 7, I felt gratitude for this journey and excitement about integrating these lessons forward. The monks have been practicing this way for thousands of years, not because it's easy, but because it works. And now I understood why. The surprising results. Before and after physical comparison. Looking at the before and after comparison from this 7-day journey, the transformations were both measurable and visible in ways that genuinely surprised me. Let me break down exactly what changed, because the results speak to the power of this ancient practice in concrete, undeniable terms. Weight changes. I began this experiment at 178 pounds and ended at 172 pounds, a 6-pound reduction in 7 days. Now, I want to be clear about what this weight loss represents. This wasn't primarily fat loss, though some certainly occurred. The initial weight drop came from reduced water retention and inflammation, decreased digestive content since I was eating less frequently, and the natural shedding of excess stored glycogen and the water that comes with it. However, the weight loss that mattered most happened around my midsection. That stubborn belly fat that resists typical dieting, it had noticeably decreased. My waist measurement dropped from 36 inches to 34 inches, a 2-inch reduction that changed how my clothes fit and how I looked in the mirror. This visceral fat reduction is significant because it's the type of fat most associated with health risks like heart disease and diabetes. Body composition. Beyond the scale, my body composition shifted in visible ways. My face became more defined, revealing cheekbones and a jawline that had been obscured by subtle puffiness. My abdomen, which had always carried bloating and excess weight, looked flatter and more toned despite doing no additional exercise. My arms and legs appeared leaner, with more visible muscle definition. This wasn't muscle loss, I'd actually maintained my strength throughout the week. What I'd lost was the layer of inflammation and water retention that obscures natural body composition. It's like cleaning a window that you didn't realize was dirty. Suddenly you can see clearly what was always there underneath. Energy levels. The energy transformation was perhaps the most dramatic change. I created an energy chart tracking my levels throughout each day of the experiment. Day 1 showed the typical roller coaster peaks after eating, crashes between meals, an afternoon slump, evening fatigue. By day 7, my energy graph looked completely different. A stable, elevated plateau from morning until evening with no significant dips or crashes. My baseline energy had increased substantially. Tasks that would normally tire me, cleaning the house, running errands, working on projects, felt effortless. I had energy reserves I could tap into at any time without needing food or stimulants. This sustained vitality made me more productive, more active, and more engaged with life than I'd been in years. Sleep quality. My sleep tracking data revealed improvements I hadn't thought possible in just 1 week. My total sleep time remained around 7 to 8 hours, but the quality transformed dramatically. Deep sleep increased from an average of 58 minutes per night to 98 minutes, a 69% improvement. REM sleep improved from 84 minutes to 112 minutes. My sleep efficiency jumped from 79% to 94%. More importantly, the subjective experience of sleep changed. I fell asleep quickly without tossing or racing thoughts, slept deeply without waking, and rose naturally without an alarm, feeling genuinely refreshed. The grogginess and sleep inertia that usually plagued my mornings had disappeared entirely. I woke up alert, clear-headed, and ready to engage with the day immediately. Mental and cognitive benefits. The cognitive improvements were among the most valued outcomes of this experiment, affecting every aspect of my daily life in measurable ways. Focus and concentration. My ability to concentrate underwent a remarkable transformation. Before this experiment, I struggled to focus on a single task for more than 20-30 minutes without my mind wandering or reaching for a distraction. By day 7, I regularly worked in focused sessions of 2 to 3 hours, completely absorbed in what I was doing. I tested this objectively by timing how long I could work on a cognitively demanding task without checking my phone, getting up, or mentally drifting. Day 1, 18 minutes. Day 7, 127 minutes. This wasn't willpower. My brain had fundamentally shifted into a state that supported sustained attention. The constant mental static that usually fragmented my focus had quieted significantly. Mental clarity. The mental clarity felt like going from standard definition to high definition. Thoughts came faster and more organized. Problem solving became easier and more intuitive. I could hold complex information in my mind simultaneously and see connections between disparate ideas. Decision making, which usually involved extended deliberation and second-guessing, became more straightforward and confident. This clarity extended to memory as well. I remembered conversations in detail, recalled names and facts more readily, and could retrieve information when needed without the usual mental searching. My mind felt like a well-organized filing system rather than the cluttered desk it usually resembled. Mood stability. Perhaps the most life-changing benefit was the emotional stability that developed throughout the week. My mood, which typically fluctuated based on circumstances, blood sugar, stress, and sleep, became remarkably stable and positive. I experienced fewer mood swings, less irritability, reduced anxiety, and an underlying sense of contentment that persisted regardless of external situations. The constant low-level stress and anxiety I'd carried, that background hum of worry about various life concerns, diminished to occasional manageable moments. I felt more resilient, less reactive, more capable of maintaining perspective when challenges arose. This emotional equilibrium made interactions easier, work more enjoyable, and life generally more pleasant. Digestive health improvements. The digestive improvements were both the most physically noticeable and most welcome changes. On day 1, I dealt with regular bloating that made my stomach uncomfortable and distended by afternoon. I experienced unpredictable gas, occasional cramping, and irregular bathroom habits that ranged from constipation to loose stools depending on the day. By day 7, all of these issues had completely resolved. My abdomen remained flat and comfortable throughout the day. The bloating that I'd accepted as normal had disappeared entirely. My digestion became remarkably efficient and predictably morning meal digested smoothly, and my elimination became regular and effortless, occurring at the same time each morning without discomfort. This digestive reset happened because I gave my system extended rest. When you eat constantly, your digestive tract never fully completes its work or has time to heal minor inflammation. The 18-20-hour daily fasting period allowed my gut to repair, reduce inflammation, and restore its natural, healthy rhythm. The improvement in digestive comfort alone made this experiment worthwhile. Unexpected benefits nobody talks about. Beyond the anticipated benefits, several unexpected advantages emerged that I'd never heard discussed in relation to monastic eating practices. My sense of taste and smell became remarkably heightened. Food tasted more intense and complex. I could detect subtle flavors I'd never noticed before. This extended beyond food. Walking outside, I noticed flowers, fresh air, even the smell of rain with a sharpness I hadn't experienced since childhood. This sensory enhancement made everyday experiences more vivid and enjoyable. My skin improved dramatically. The texture became smoother, the tone more even, small blemishes cleared up, and there was a noticeable glow that no skincare routine had ever achieved. This makes sense when your body isn't constantly digesting food. It can allocate resources to repair and regeneration, including skin cell turnover. I experienced significant financial savings. Not buying lunch, snacks, coffee, or eating out for a week saved me approximately $150. Extrapolated over a year, this practice could save thousands of dollars while simultaneously improving health, a rare win-win scenario. Time abundance was another unexpected gift. Without meal planning, preparation, eating, and cleanup happening multiple times daily, I gained several hours each day. This time went toward activities I'd been claiming I was too busy for: reading, creative projects, exercise, meaningful conversations. The downsides and challenges faced. Honesty requires acknowledging the genuine difficulties and downsides of this practice, because they're real and significant for anyone considering this approach. Social isolation was the most challenging downside. So much of human connection revolves around shared meals. Declining lunch invitations, sitting with tea while others ate dinner, missing the bonding that happens over food, these created a subtle but persistent sense of disconnection from normal social rhythms. The rigidity of the schedule sometimes conflicted with life's unpredictability. When a friend suggested meeting for a spontaneous lunch, when work obligations created scheduling challenges, when family gatherings centered around evening meals, the inflexibility of eating only before noon sometimes felt limiting rather than liberating. Initial physical discomfort during the first 3 days was significant. The headaches, fatigue, irritability, and intense cravings made those early days genuinely difficult. Not everyone has the schedule flexibility or personal circumstances to manage these adjustment symptoms comfortably. The practice requires significant privilege and stability. It assumes you have control over your schedule, access to quality food, the ability to prepare meals, and circumstances that allow you to prioritize this practice. For people working multiple jobs, caring for young children, or facing food insecurity, this approach may be impractical or impossible. What the science says about these results. The results I experienced aren't anecdotal anomalies. They're supported by substantial scientific research into fasting, circadian eating, and metabolic health. Studies on time-restricted eating show that consuming food within a shortened window, particularly earlier in the day, improves insulin sensitivity by up to 30%, increases fat oxidation, reduces inflammation markers, and enhances autophagy, the cellular cleanup process that removes damaged components and supports longevity. Research on intermittent fasting demonstrates significant cognitive benefits. Fasting increases production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, by 200–400%, which supports neuron growth and protection. It enhances mitochondrial function in brain cells, providing more efficient energy production. These mechanisms explain the mental clarity, focus, and mood stability I experienced. The sleep improvements align with research showing that late eating disrupts circadian rhythms and reduces sleep quality. When you stop eating several hours before sleep, your body temperature drops appropriately, melatonin production increases naturally, and your digestive system rests, allowing deeper, more restorative sleep cycles. The digestive improvements reflect findings that extended fasting periods allow the gut microbiome to rebalance, reduce inflammation in the intestinal lining, and restore the migrating motor complex, the cleansing wave that sweeps through the digestive tract during fasting, preventing bacterial overgrowth and promoting gut health. Scientists are also discovering that the timing of eating matters as much as what you eat. Our digestive enzymes, metabolic hormones, and cellular processes follow circadian rhythms, functioning optimally during daylight hours. Eating in alignment with these rhythms, consuming food when your body is prepared to process it, efficiently creates the foundation for the dramatic results I experienced. The monks weren't following arbitrary rules. They were following principles that align with human biology in ways that modern science is only now beginning to fully understand and validate. My 7-day experiment confirmed what thousands of years of monastic practice had already demonstrated. Working with your body's natural rhythms rather than against them creates transformative changes in health, energy, mental clarity, and overall well-being. Practical takeaways: how to start if you're interested. If this 7-day journey has inspired you to try eating like a monk, the most important advice I can give is this: don't jump in with both feet on day one. The shock to your system can be overwhelming and counterproductive. Instead, approach this practice with patience, respect for your body's adjustment process, and realistic expectations about the timeline. Start by choosing your motivation. Why do you want to try this? Better health, mental clarity, weight management, spiritual growth? Having a clear purpose will sustain you through the challenging early days when your body and mind resist the change. Write down your intention and refer back to it when difficulties arise. Next, consult with a healthcare provider, especially if you have any medical conditions, take medications, are pregnant or nursing, or have a history of eating disorders. This practice isn't appropriate for everyone, and professional guidance ensures you approach it safely for your individual circumstances. Choose your start date strategically. Don't begin during a week filled with social obligations, work stress, or travel. Pick a week where you have some control over your schedule and can prioritize rest if needed during the adjustment phase. Many people find starting on a weekend or during a vacation allows them to manage the initial challenges more comfortably. Clear your kitchen before you begin. Remove tempting snacks and processed foods that will make adherence difficult. Stock up on whole grains, legumes, fresh vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, and herbal teas. Having the right foods readily available eliminates decision fatigue and sets you up for success. Prepare mentally by reading about others' experiences, understanding what to expect during the adjustment phase, and developing strategies for managing hunger, cravings, and social situations. Mental preparation matters as much as physical preparation. Modified approaches for beginners. The full monastic practice: one meal before noon with nothing until the next morning is advanced. For beginners, I strongly recommend starting with modified approaches that allow your body to adapt gradually. The progressive timeline approach. Week 1, narrow your eating window to 8 hours, such as eating between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. Week 2, reduce to a 6-hour window, perhaps 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Week 3, transition to 2 meals within a 4-hour morning window. Week 4, attempt the full practice of 1 meal before noon. This gradual progression gives your body time to adapt without overwhelming it. The intermittent practice approach. Rather than committing to daily monastic eating, try it 1 or 2 days per week while eating normally on other days. This allows you to experience the benefits without the full lifestyle commitment. Many people find that 2–3 days per week of extended fasting provides significant health benefits while remaining socially and practically manageable. The extended breakfast approach. Instead of 1 meal, eat a substantial breakfast around 8 a.m. and a smaller second meal around 11 a.m., then fast until the next morning. This provides a 21-hour fasting window while being slightly less restrictive than true one-meal-a-day practice. The flexible timing approach. If mornings don't work for your schedule, adjust the timing. The key principles are eating within a compressed window, allowing extended fasting periods, and eating mindfully. Some people successfully practice this with an afternoon eating window instead, though research suggests morning eating aligns better with circadian rhythms. Remember, the goal isn't perfection, it's finding a sustainable practice that improves your health and life. Adapt the principles to your circumstances rather than forcing yourself into a rigid framework that doesn't fit. Common mistakes to avoid. Having gone through this journey and researched extensively, I've identified critical mistakes that sabotage success and create unnecessary suffering. Mistake 1. Under-eating during your meal. When you're eating once daily, that meal must be substantial and nutritionally complete. Don't approach it like a typical meal. You need significantly more calories, protein, healthy fats, and nutrients to sustain you for 24 hours. Under-eating leads to genuine deprivation, muscle loss, nutrient deficiencies, and unsustainable hunger that causes you to quit. This isn't the time for processed foods, refined carbohydrates, or empty calories. Your single meal should consist of nutrient-dense whole foods that provide sustained energy and complete nutrition. Quality matters exponentially when quantity is limited. Mistake 3. Ignoring hydration. Many people forget to drink water throughout the fasting period, leading to dehydration that mimics hunger and causes headaches, fatigue, and poor concentration. Drink water consistently. Aim for at least 8 glasses daily, more if you're active or in hot weather. Mistake 4. Pushing through warning signs. Mild hunger and discomfort are normal during adjustment. Severe symptoms, dizziness, extreme weakness, mental confusion, heart palpitations are not. Listen to your body and break your fast if genuine warning signs appear. This practice should improve your health, not compromise it. Mistake 5. Neglecting electrolytes. Extended fasting can deplete sodium, potassium, and magnesium, causing the headaches and fatigue commonly experienced in early days. Include adequate salt in your meal and consider adding a pinch of sea salt to your water during fasting periods. Mistake 6. Combining with intense exercise initially. Your body needs time to adapt to this new fuel pattern before you demand high performance. Moderate activity is fine, but save intense workouts until after the adjustment phase when your energy has stabilized. Meal planning tips. Success with monastic eating depends heavily on intelligent meal planning. Your single meal must be thoughtfully composed to provide everything your body needs for the next 24 hours. The foundation: complex carbohydrates. Start with whole grains like brown rice, quinoa, oats, or buckwheat. These provide sustained energy, fiber for digestive health, and important B vitamins. Aim for 1–2 cups cooked grains per meal. The protein component. Include substantial plant-based proteins: lentils, chickpeas, black beans, tofu, or tempeh. Protein is crucial for satiety, muscle maintenance, and countless bodily functions. Target 25–35 grams of protein in your meal. The vegetable abundance. Fill at least half your plate with vegetables: leafy greens, cruciferous vegetables, colorful peppers, root vegetables, squash. The variety ensures you get diverse micronutrients, antioxidants, and fiber. Don't skimp here. Vegetables provide the nutritional density that keeps you healthy. Healthy fats. Include avocado, nuts, seeds, or coconut to provide essential fatty acids, fat-soluble vitamin absorption, hormone production, and sustained energy. Fats slow digestion, helping you feel satisfied longer. Add 2–3 tablespoons of healthy fats to your meal. Strategic fruits. Include 1 serving of fruit for natural sweetness, quick energy, and additional nutrients. Berries, apples, or papaya work well. Avoid excessive fruit that might spike blood sugar and leave you hungrier later. Meal timing optimization. Eat your meal between 7–11 a.m. when digestive fire is strongest and insulin sensitivity is highest. The earlier you eat, the longer your fasting window, and the greater the metabolic benefits. Preparation strategies. Many people find success with batch cooking, preparing grain and legume bases for several days at once, then adding fresh vegetables daily. This reduces daily preparation time while ensuring you always have appropriate food ready. Sample meal structure. A large bowl containing brown rice with turmeric, lentil and vegetable curry with coconut milk, steamed broccoli and carrots, fresh avocado slices, a handful of almonds, and sliced mango creates a complete, satisfying meal that provides sustained energy. mindful eating practices you can adopt today. Even if you're not ready to try monastic eating patterns, you can immediately benefit from adopting mindful eating practices that transform your relationship with food. Practice 1. Eliminate distractions during meals. Put away your phone, turn off the television, close your laptop. Eating is worthy of your complete attention. This single practice dramatically improves digestion, satisfaction, and your ability to recognize fullness cues. Practice 2. Chew thoroughly. Aim for 20-30 chews per bite. This isn't arbitrary. Thorough chewing breaks down food mechanically, mixes it with digestive enzymes, and signals your brain about what you're eating. Most people chew only 5-10 times per bite, missing crucial digestive benefits. Practice 3. Eat until 80% full. The Japanese practice of hara hachibu means eating until you're 80% satisfied rather than completely stuffed. This prevents overeating while ensuring adequate nutrition. Your body needs about 20 minutes to register fullness, so stopping before complete fullness allows that signal to catch up. Practice 4. Pause mid-meal. Halfway through eating, put down your utensils and take 3 deep breaths. Check in with your body. Are you still hungry, or are you eating from habit? This pause creates awareness and prevents mindless consumption. Practice 5. Express gratitude. Before eating, take a moment to acknowledge your food, where it came from, the effort involved in bringing it to you, and the nourishment it will provide. This isn't necessarily spiritual. It's about creating intentionality around eating, rather than treating it as a mindless transaction. Practice 6. Notice the first and last bites. The first bite is often the most satisfying, yet we rarely truly experience it. The last bite completes the meal, yet we often take it unconsciously. Paying special attention to these bookend bites creates awareness and satisfaction. These practices require no schedule changes, no dietary restrictions, no special foods. You can implement them immediately with your next meal and begin experiencing the benefits of mindful eating regardless of when or what you eat. Resources and further reading. For those interested in exploring this practice more deeply, several excellent resources provide additional context, scientific backing, and practical guidance. Books. The Circadian Code by Sachin Panda explains the science of timing your eating with your body's natural rhythms. The Complete Guide to Fasting by Dr. Jason Fung provides medical perspective on various fasting approaches. Savor. Mindful Eating, Mindful Life by Thich Nhat Hanh explores the contemplative aspects of eating, scientific research. Search for studies on time-restricted eating, intermittent fasting, and circadian rhythm nutrition in databases like PubMed for peer-reviewed research supporting these practices. Online communities. Various forums and social media groups dedicated to intermittent fasting, mindful eating, and time-restricted eating provide support, shared experiences, and practical tips from people practicing these approaches. Professional guidance. Consider working with a registered dietitian, functional medicine practitioner, or healthcare provider experienced in fasting protocols to personalize the approach for your specific health needs and goals. Subscribe if you want to learn more about transformative health practices rooted in ancient wisdom and validated by modern science. The journey of eating like a monk for 7 days revealed that profound changes are possible when we align our habits with our body's natural design rather than fighting against it. Summary of the journey and key revelations. These 7 days of eating like a monk transformed far more than my meal schedule. They fundamentally changed how I understand my body, my mind, and my relationship with food. What began as a simple experiment in ancient dietary practices became a profound journey of self-discovery and physical transformation. From the difficult beginning on day 1, struggling with hunger pangs and breaking deeply ingrained habits, through the adjustment phase where my body fought against change, to the breakthrough on days 4 and 5 when everything suddenly clicked into place, and finally to the consolidated wisdom of days 6 and 7. Each phase taught me something invaluable about human physiology and the power of working with our bodies rather than against them. The physical results were remarkable. 6 pounds lost, 2 inches off my waist, dramatically improved sleep quality, stable energy throughout the day, and complete resolution of digestive issues I'd accepted as normal. But the mental and emotional transformations surprised me even more. The clarity, focus, emotional stability, and sense of freedom from constant food preoccupation changed how I moved through the world. My biggest surprises. If you'd asked me before starting what would surprise me most, I would have guessed it would be managing hunger or the physical changes. I was completely wrong. My biggest surprise was discovering how much mental and emotional energy I'd been dedicating to food without realizing it. The constant thoughts about what to eat, when to eat, whether I should eat, all of that mental noise quieted, freeing up cognitive resources I didn't know were being consumed. I was also shocked by how quickly my body adapted. By day 4, what seemed impossible on day 1 had become almost effortless. Our bodies are incredibly adaptable when we give them consistent signals and adequate time to adjust. The struggle isn't usually physical, it's mental, emotional, and habitual. The social dimension surprised me too. I expected to miss the food itself, but what I actually missed was the connection, ritual, and shared experience that meals provide. This revealed how deeply food is woven into the fabric of human relationships and culture, and why monastic practices evolved in communities where everyone shares the same rhythms. Long-term changes I'll implement. I won't maintain the full monastic practice daily moving forward, but I'm absolutely integrating core principles into my life permanently. I'll practice the complete one meal before noon approach at least twice weekly to maintain the metabolic and mental benefits. I'll eat my largest meal earlier in the day rather than in the evening, working with my body's natural digestive rhythms instead of against them. I'll maintain extended fasting windows of at least 14-16 hours daily, giving my digestive system adequate rest. Most importantly, I'm carrying forward the mindful eating practice, eliminating distractions during meals, chewing thoroughly, eating to 80% fullness, and approaching food with gratitude and intention rather than mindlessness. These changes require no schedule modifications but create profound shifts in how food affects my body and mind. Final thoughts on monastic wisdom. The monks have been practicing this way for thousands of years, and they've preserved this wisdom not because it's easy or convenient, but because it works. These practices aren't arbitrary religious restrictions. They're sophisticated understandings of human biology, circadian rhythms, and the mind-body connection that modern science is only now beginning to fully validate and explain. What strikes me most is that this ancient wisdom requires nothing we don't already have. No expensive supplements, no specialized equipment, no complex protocols. Just whole foods, mindful attention, and the courage to eat in alignment with our body's natural design rather than our culture's constant consumption mentality. The most powerful health interventions are often the simplest, though rarely the easiest. Challenge to viewers. Here's my challenge to you. You don't have to commit to 7 days of eating like a monk. Start smaller. For the next 3 days, try eating all your food within an 8-hour window, with your largest meal in the morning or early afternoon. Practice eating one meal each day without any distractions, no phone, no TV, no reading, just complete presence with your food. Notice what changes. Pay attention to your energy, your mental clarity, your relationship with hunger. Track how you feel and compare it to your normal eating patterns. You might be surprised by what you discover. Sometimes the most profound transformations begin with the smallest shifts in awareness and practice. If this journey resonated with you, if you learned something valuable, or if you're feeling inspired to try some of these practices yourself, please hit that like button and subscribe to our Wisdom Diaries channel. Your support helps us continue exploring ancient wisdom through modern experiments, bringing you practical insights that can genuinely transform your health and life. Comment below and tell us, have you ever tried any form of fasting or mindful eating? What was your experience? And where in the world are you watching this from? I love hearing from our global community and learning about your own journeys with these practices. Your stories and questions help shape future content and inspire others who are on similar paths. Share this video with anyone in your life who's struggling with energy, focus, digestive issues, or who's simply curious about alternative approaches to eating and wellness. Sometimes the information that transforms someone's life comes from an unexpected source, shared by a friend who cared enough to pass it along.